Hi guys, it's Max here from Maximum MMA, and today I'll be going over my next fights to make from UFC Fight Night, Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. I have now calmed down a bit from, the main event and stuff. Listen, it is what it is. If judges are blind, they're blind, okay? We're not going to talk about it anymore. But, yeah, so I'm just going to go through the next fight I think each of these fighters should have. But obviously I'm not going to be doing Antonio Tricoli or Austin Lane. Like, if you're looking for the next fight I think they should have, you're on the wrong video, mate. They both need to retire. But anyway, so I'm going to start off with Shamrock. He's now 0-2 in the UFC and he's not looked very good in either fight. He had a lot of time off between his first fight and second fight and he changed nothing. So I think you're going to have to give him someone who, has had quite a similar story. Anshul Jubilee, right? The winner gets to stay in the UFC, right? The loser's getting cut. So both these guys, the UFC wants them to be big. They've got a lot of name value. If they start doing well, they're going to be quite big stars where they're from. The UFC really wants the Indian market. They really want the English market with Shamrock. So I think this is a good fight. Probably not going to be the highest skill level fight, but both these guys, they're probably similar skill level. And it's probably just quite good for the agenda the UFC wants to push. Then I'm going to talk about Louis Sutherland versus Brandon Pericic. Brandon Pericic, he looked really good in that fight. He looked really technical. I mean, I'm shocked that there's a UFC heavyweight out there who has some nice kicks. Like, I thought that'd just be Cyril Gane, but Brandon Pericic, he looked really good in that fight. He's now got 2 first-round knockouts in a row. I think he needs sort of one more fight just outside the rankings before we can give him a ranked opponent. I think you give him Kendi Njeku. I butchered that, but he's high level heavyweight. Arguably should be ranked right now. Fucking Tuivasa in the rankings. I think. We'll get to him later, but he's not looked that great his last 2 times out, but he is quite skillful for a heavyweight. Former light heavyweight, lighter man skill. I think this would be a good fight and a good test for Brandon Pericic fighting a big heavyweight. Well, he's at quite a big reach disadvantage. And then Louis Sutherland, he's now 0-2 in the UFC, right? He's been finished twice. He needs to take a bit of time off. And I'm probably just do another cycle, to be honest. He needs to, go back to that big beefy guy we saw before the UFC. But I think give him time to Tuivasa. I think Tuivasa's going to win his next fight against Sharaf. And I know it's kind of weird that he'll end up being ranked above Brandon Pericic or whatever, but he's going to get a ranked opponent before Brandon Pericic. But I think it's the only fight you can really make for Louis Sutherland, unless you cut him, which the UFC, they probably will. They've given him 2 really tough matchups in his 0-2, but it's that's just what the UFC's like. But I think it's going to be a good... This is a guaranteed knockout, right? Both these guys, they've got good chins, they both have a lot of power. This is going to be a scrap at heavyweight, just on the edge of the rankings. Yeah. Then Mantis Controversial. Why the fuck does this guy look like Joffrey from Game of Thrones, bro? He looks like that evil king kid. That's actually pissing me off. But yeah. So there's 2 fighters I reckon you should give him. Basically I'm saying just give him the camera out and treatment, right? Give him time to develop. So I reckon you either give him Cody Brundage, right? I don't know why I opened this as apology instead of the UFC page. That's just on me. Yes, give him Cody Brundage, or you give him Andre Petrosky, right? Both these guys are on losing streaks. Both of them are really chinny. It just gives Mantis Controversious a good chance to showcase his striking, showcase his power. Maybe get a couple finishes inside the UFC. And sort of just develop more as a UFC fighter. Now, Mario Pinto, it was such a disappointing performance from him. I did think he was going to smoke Franco. Forgot the guy's last name, but Franco is also quite good heavyweight. I actually forgot to say who I want him to fight next, but I think Mario Pinto should fight Talishan Teixeira. Teixeira looked so shit against Tuivasa, and he's been slimed out by Derek Lewis, right? This is going to be, I reckon it's going to be a round 1 finish for Mario Pinto. Just gonna take Teixeira down, just ground and pound TKO him, sub him. I think he does whatever he wants to Teixeira, basically. I think Teixeira is shit. Alright. Nathaniel Wood versus Los Inquieta. So Nathaniel Wood, he deserves a ranked opponent, right? He's been doing the UFC so many favours. He's on like, what, 4-5 fight win streak outside the rankings. He's fought, Jose Miguel Delgado, and Los Inquieta back to back, who are both, guys the UFC wants to push. Both dangerous prospects, and he's beat both of them, right? He's on, he's a crafty vet just outside the rankings, and I think you give him, I think you should give him like, an easier fight in the rankings. I don't think you give him like, a hard fight to get into the rankings. So I reckon give him Patricio Pitbull, who's basically sort of just, he's a bit past it now, and I think Daniel Wood would win a unanimous decision here. And he deserves to be in the rankings. I think he's going to become sort of like the new Dan Ige, sort of like gatekeeping the rankings a bit. Yeah, I don't too much to say about this. I think this would be sort of like, I don't think this would be the most entertaining fight, but I think it's the fight to make with Nathaniel Wood and Patricio Pitbull. You're not going to get Patricio Pitbull fighting up the rankings anytime soon, and so he needs to give someone a chance. He needs to give a chance to someone outside the rankings, and I think that guy should be. And I think that guy should be Nathaniel Wood. There we go. Sorry, my bad. Now Los Inquieta. Now obviously the UFC wanted him to knock out Nathaniel Wood, right? This guy, he's entertaining. He's got good power. He's someone the UFC sort of wants to push. So they're gonna give him a layup off of this fight, right? And I just realised the guy put it isn't a layup, so I'm kind of speaking out my arse here. But they want him to get finished. They want him to fight someone with a bit of name value. They're gonna try push him to the rankings probably as quick as they can, to be honest. He didn't look that bad against Nathaniel Wood, but Nathaniel Wood did expose a lot of holes in his game. But I think the fight you give him is Dan Ige. Dan Ige, his chin's just been cracked, and we've seen beforehand, like, once you've been knocked out the first time, your chin's never going to be the same. I think Los Inquieta can knock out Dan Ige, but I think this is quite a test. But I think Los Inquieta needs to take a lot of time off, as does Dan Ige, to be fair. He's got, he needs to develop a lot, right? It'll be sort of like Lonnie Kavanaugh. He took a lot of time off after he got knocked out by Charles Johnson, and he came back so much better. He needs to take time off, fix those holes in his game, and then I think Los Inquieta versus Dan Ige is going to be a really good fight. Now Mason Jones, oh my word, what a guy! Right, this guy is top 10 potential, absolutely. Like, can you imagine once he's a bit more developed, him versus BSD? That'd be a fucking war. But I think you should give Mason Jones, Alexander Hernandez. They're both just outside the rankings. They're both blockheads. They're both gonna go in there. They're both gonna swing. They both hit quite hard. I think this will be a dogfight, and then winner gets a ranked opponent. Now Axel Sola, right? I think there's two options for him. Either you send him back up to 170, maybe give him like Sam Patterson or someone. That'd have to be a decent fight. Or if he stays at 55, I reckon you give him Thiago Moises. I think Thiago Moises, he's on the way out. He's past his peak, and he's sort of a bit of a layup for Axel Sola. Like, I wouldn't say layup, but he's still a test, right? He still has problems he can pose Axel Sola. I think this should be a finish win for Axel Sola though. And it'll basically just sort of let him fight someone with a bit of name value outside the rankings at lightweight. And kind of just push him towards the rankings, right? Because he's another guy, who has top 15 potential in the lightweight division. Now, I'm going to talk about CLD a bit later, but I think Rome Delize's next fight should be a main event in the Apex against Marvin Vettori for the third time. It's like, what the fuck do you do with either of these guys, right? Either you just cut both of them, or you get them to fight each other. And, at this point with UFC matchmaking, just make this a main event, right? Like, there's nothing else just for the memes, right? Now, Iwo Baranowski, he's had 2, 1-minute KOs in the UFC now. He's shown that he's got good power, but he's not really sort of fought anyone of that's at a particularly high level. So I reckon you sort of give him someone who's a bit more of a test. I reckon you give him Billy Elikana, who's sort of been can crushing his last few fights in the UFC. Like, you know, he's on a 2-fight win streak and they're giving him fucking Junior Tafa. Like, you know, he needs to fight someone who's a bit more of a hard fight. Him and Igor Baranowski, that'd be a good fight. Both of them have decent chins on them. And also Billy Elikana needs to be punished. That boring as fuck fight against what's the kid's name? Against Ibo Aslan, bro. That was rough. But he has had 2 finishes in a row to make up for it. So, yeah, but I think you know, a grappler is a good test for Igor Baranowski, and someone with lots of power is a good test for Billy Elikana. So I reckon that would be a good fight to make in the light heavyweight division. Now, this is where I'm going to do CLD's next fight. So his grappling defense looked really sus against Elite. He needs to work on that a lot before, you know, he fights someone that's got decent grappling, like a Robocop, or just like a lot of people that are ranked above him in middleweight. So I think you need to give him a striker, and you know, I think you give him MVP, right? I think MVP needs to move back up to middleweight. I think CLD is a guy that can draw a fight at MVP. He's not going to be scared to engage. He is going to sort of come into the crack, like, you know, he is going to enter the pocket against MVP. I don't think he's going to freeze up too much. So I think, you know, this is going to be a good way to get a good fight at MVP. Or, knowing the UFC, there's a decent chance they're going to cut him. Like, that, he's had some stinkers now. Like, if we look at his last few fights, you know, like, the Kevin Holland fight, that was actually quite fun. Ian Gary, that was boring as fuck. Sharp Burnett, that was decent. Cannonier, boring as fuck. Sam Patterson, that is his worst fight ever. Like that. This is the fucking striking equivalent of DDP versus Kamzat. And honestly, I think this is worse because at least, you know, there was some stuff happening. DDP Kamzat, like DDP almost getting that rear naked choke at the end. This was just so boring. Like this is one of the worst fights I've ever seen inside the UFC. But yeah. Now I think, oh yeah, it's Luke Riley now. Oh shit, I forgot to do one for Aswell Junior. I forgot to do one for the other featherweight fight, Curtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. I can't bother, I'm not gonna do those. But Luke Riley, I think you need to give him someone with a bit of name value, someone who's not going to pose too much of a threat to him, but could also, you know, crafty vet his way through this. So I reckon give him Calvin Kattar. He's got name value, so that's, you know, that's a good. It'll be a good win for Luke Riley. It'll push him towards the rankings, having a win over a guy like Calvin Kattar who has name value. Calvin Kattar is very much past his prime, but he still could, you know, crafty vet his way to a decision maybe against Luke Riley. And one thing I do think is Luke Riley needs a loss, right? He needs sort of, similar to Lonnie Kavanagh, he needs a loss that he can sort of bounce back from, evolve from, right? And he, I don't think that happened against Calvin Kattar. I think he should fight Calvin Kattar, beat Calvin Kattar, then he should just have a much harder matchup. Basically forces him to, you know, step up his game. But yeah, I think Luke Riley versus Calvin Kattar would be a good fight. I think it'd be mainly on the feet. Calvin Kattar's chin has not been cracked yet, so we'll see if Luke Riley's the first one that can do it. I'd assume not, considering you know, he went 3 rounds with Steve Garcia, but you know, we'll see. Now we're on to the main event. You've got 2 options with Lerone Murphy, right? Either you just like launch him down the rankings, you know, like get like, you know, the UFC could try to get like Kevin Vallejos in the top 5 maybe, but that doesn't seem like, you know, doesn't seem right to me. And also, you know, he's had the hip injury. I think Kevin Vallejos would probably be a bit more active. We don't know how long Lerone Murphy's out for, so I reckon, and this was such a close fight with Evloev, right? I reckon he's ready to either go into another title eliminator, or fight someone then go into a title eliminator against probably like John Silver or someone. So I reckon his next fight, we get Yaya Rodriguez out of the fucking top 5. This guy's pissing me off, right? He's not fought in a fucking year, right? He had a boring as fuck. Actually, no, it wasn't that boring. He just had like a sort of like nothing decision win against Patricia Pitbull. Fucking fight someone, man. All right. I think Lerone Murphy exposes a lot of holes in Yair Rodriguez's game. You know, I think Lerone Murphy can sort of just output him to a decision. Yair Rodriguez is going to have some serious ring rust going into any future matchups. And I think, you know, the UFC needs to make him fight. Just say it. They need to say, you're going to fight or you're losing your ranking. Like they did with Shavkat. Like they've said to Yair Rodriguez multiple times before. Right? You need to fight or you'll lose your ranking. Do that. Make this motherfucker fight. It's pissing me off. But yeah. Also, to be fair, you could do Lerone Murphy versus Diego Lopez. I think that'd be a pretty good fight because we all know Diego Lopez is slamming out Steve Garcia in the first on the warehouse card. So, you know, that could be a pretty good fun fight. Now, Murzva Evloev. There's only really one fight to make here, isn't there? Like, I could say, oh yeah, you know, we need to make him fight, I don't know, like Jean Silva, feed him to Kevin Vallejos. No. It's Volk, right? This is the only fight to make for Murzva Evloev. Only fight to make. I swear to God, if I wake up tomorrow morning, or just, you know, if I wake up, check my Instagram feed in the morning, and see fucking Jean Silva's been given a fucking title shot, I'll actually crash the fuck out. I don't even know what I'm gonna do, man. I'm gonna be fuming is what I'm gonna be, right? Like, John Silva has done nothing to deserve a title shot. He got knocked out by Diego Lopez in 2 rounds, who Volk beat twice, right? He's on a 1-fight win streak against Arnold Allen, who was on a 1.5-year layoff, right? And that was a really close fight. Like, Arnold Allen, you know, he's a great fighter, but that is a long layoff to have. And have such a close win against the guy right? So, you know, I just don't want to see fucking John Silva versus Volk, man. Like, he's gonna knock Volk out, right? Like, he's got the good enough footwork to sort of trap Volk and then unleash the big power shots like Taporia did, or like, you know, Masha did. It's the one thing Lopez couldn't do. He didn't have the footwork to corner Volk and then unleash those power shots. So yeah. I think Murzva versus Volk, because I think Volk beats the shit out of him. I think Volk wins a 50-45, 49-46 unanimous decision. I think that he's so much faster than Evloev, which is weird considering how much older Volk is than Evloev. Yeah, I think it'd be a bit of a free title defense for Volk, and it'd be, you know, getting like a, well, not Dagestani, but, you know, a Russian guy with an EV in his name that's undefeated as a title defense at this age is so good for his legacy. Even if Murzva Evloev isn't, you know, the best fighter ever, it's still, you know, a very good name to have on your resume. And then after that, I want Volk to fucking retire. Like, don't even entertain the John Silva fight, right? Unless, you know, they make Murphy versus John Silva. Murphy, you know, somehow wins a decision, right? Then you know, you do the Lerone Murphy fight, then you retire. Do not fight John Silva, Volk. I'm begging you. If they send you that John Silva contract, don't sign on that dotted line, man. I swear. Please, Volk. But yeah, I'm kind of japping a bit now. But yeah, those are my next fights to make for Murzva Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. Later this week, I'm going to be releasing my prediction video for the Adesanya vs Piper this weekend. But yeah, that's basically about it. Make sure to like and subscribe, comment any video suggestions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.